The second type of loop is called the for loop. Its syntax goes like this. The keyword for, then a variable, then the keyword in, followed by a sequence, and then again a colon. And of course, we have our block of code. Sequence can be defined by range, strings, or lists. For now, we'll primarily use the range function. Range has two default parameters, start and stop, and it produces an integer sequence starting from start and ends with stop -1. For example, range 05 will create the sequence 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's try it out in our code. So let's have this example. For count in range 05, print count. It's that simple. So again, we have the for keyword followed by a variable, and then the in keyword, and then the sequence. In our case, it's the range function. So I guess just try it out. So let's open the terminal, and then let's run it. And as you can see, it printed the numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, which is also our sequence. So as you have may notice, the number of elements produced by range, as you can see here, we have 5 elements, will also be the number of iterations for this loop. Another quick way to know the number of iterations in a for loop that uses range is to subtract stop with start. So in our case, 5 minus 0. So that will be 5 iterations. So how does this work? In this for loop, count will be assigned each value from this sequence. For example, at the start of the first iteration, count will be assigned 0, and then we'll print count. In the next iteration, count will be assigned 1, and then again we'll print count. The next iteration, count will be assigned 2, print count again. Next iteration, it will be assigned 3, print count again, and then lastly, count will be assigned 4, and then we'll print count again. So when the sequence is exhausted, the loop stops. So again, the for loop continues along this sequence until it is exhausted. So what if we want to change the numbers printed? For example, we want to print the numbers maybe 50 to 99, something like that. What do we do? What do we need to change here? We could just change start and stop. So let's change this to, what would be the starting number? It says here the range should be 50 to 99. Therefore, there should be 50, right? And then our stop should be, take note that our sequence goes from start to stop -1. If we want the last element of the sequence to be 99, we have to put here 100. Let's see. So let's open our terminal. Let's save that first. Let's open our terminal, and then let's run it again. And as you can see, it printed 99. Did it start with 50? Yes, it did. So there you have it. It's that simple to change. There is an optional third parameter here, which I'll just let you find it out on your own. Now let's go back to one of our previous examples. This is our loop1.py. Let's transform this loop here, into a for loop. So we want to make it do the same thing, but instead of using a while loop, we'll use a for loop. So obviously, what do we need to change here? We have to change this one here. Let's remove that here. We no longer need an initialization part. So we no longer need an update part because the update is handled by the for loop itself, where we assign the elements in the sequence to our variable. So instead we'll just use for, let's use I again, for I in range, So what will be our range here? That'll be 0 to n. And then don't forget the colon. And again, to determine the number of iterations, we just subtract stop with start. So n minus 0, that's n, so this will iterate n times. Let's try that out. So let's open our terminal. Okay, let's just clear that. And then let's run loop1.py. So it seems that it works. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And yes, the sum is 15. So it does work. So as you can see, the for loop usually takes less lines, fewer lines of code. But there are some differences. There are some advantages over, by using a while loop over a for loop and vice versa. So now, try this problem on your own. Given n positive integers, print the largest. Use a for loop. Also, try this. Check if the user correctly entered a positive integer for n. If the user hasn't, keep asking for 1. For example, so you need to ask the user for how many numbers, right? What if the user inputs 0 or maybe a negative number, -5? Obviously, that's not a valid number. So instead of just letting it be, keep asking the user to enter a valid value, which is, I guess, 1 and above, right? So try this on your own.